Hey guys, Mr. Riz here to help you out with the 116 project for Computer Science Essentials. So what we're going to do in this video is to go over the project, the details of it. Obviously, since this is a project, this is a big summative grade, so I'm not going to walk you through it at all, but at least I'm going to go through now and kind of explain everything, how the grading is going to work so you guys understand and can really have a good grasp of this so you know what you need to get done. So if you need some ideas, you can check these links here on the Canvas page here. But I'm just going to go through and read this project overview for you. All right, so our big goal here is to get you to decompose a project into some smaller parts. So like we've done with all of our other apps, is to break it down into smaller bits, to apply the coding fundamentals and iterative processes that we've learned, and develop an app as part of like a paired programming collaboration. So that means you can definitely work together with a partner if you would like. You both need to turn in the same app, but you can work together if you'd like. Now, if you need to see a video of the app or an example here, you can watch this, or you can just keep watching this video here to explain. So our goal here is you guys are going to create some type of game or interactive story or an app for some type of artistic expression. So really, there is no I don't know, box that you have to be in. You get to make what you want and you're going to design it. So you're going to make an app. There are going to be some requirements to the app. So you can't just make an app that has a single button on it and plays one sound. But you can see there's going to be more things that you can do. So some essential questions to think about right now at the beginning is, what is the purpose of the program that you're going to make? Where does the program integrate mathematical and or logical concepts? Okay. What does one of the algorithms do in the program? And how does an abstraction you created manage the complexity in the program? So those are the big concepts that we covered in the previous apps that we've made, making sure that you can use those same things in the app that you're going to do. All right, so some essential concepts here that we're going to make sure we got. Can we use computer science practices, computational thinking, user-centered design, iterative design, and testing? Those are all the apps that we've kind of worked with, just their fancy way of saying. Paired programming, that means working together in a group. Event-driven programming, so that means when this event happens, the computer does this. When this happens, you do that. All right, and then using algorithms, variables, arguments, all these vocab words, procedures, operators, data types, logic, loops, and strings. We've talked about those. All right, so here's some resources here if you need these. So these are examples if you don't know where to start. Feel free, especially on the first day, to just kind of familiarize with these. So here's like a smashing sprite game. Now, there's a lot of games already available on App Inventor. You can't just take one of them and turn them in, but if you want to take one and modify it, feel free to do that. So at this point, we've created like quite a few games. And if you want to create your own unique game, you can definitely do that. Or you can modify a previous game. So you can look at this game here. So game apps typically rely heavily on the concept of event-driven programming. So the user should be able to use the keyboard or the mouse or to touch the screen to affect what happens in the game. Those are different effects. The game should have like an objective with several milestones or achievements. So not just one thing it does. A score would be just sufficient enough, but many alternative exist. When you reach a certain level in your score, this happens. All right, the game should include progression or levels, often when increasing difficulty. So that's what I want you guys to do with your game. So to make a game app unique, you need to at least add one of the following. You need to increase the speed of the sprite as the game goes on, or decrease the number of sprites as the user increases the score, have the count count the number of misses. So like every time you miss something here, add another sprite as a diversion to take away points if the user taps on the wrong sprite, record and display. So you can think about a lot of different things you can do, just how you can modify it. You need to at least do one of those. So when you start exploring game apps, the good thing to do is to look at the design view and then also look at the user interface. So when you download a pre-existing app, if you're not making one from scratch, you understand how it looks like on the screen versus how it's going to look like on the tablet. All right. So, you want to go through and then can you think of a procedure that you can do to place the panda randomly on the screen, what that might look like? Can you, use your partner next to you to try to describe that natural code? And so you're going to be working through these things right now at the beginning to kind of figure out, is there a way that we can make a clock going through that fires every so often to do an event? All right. To build this game in App Adventure, you're going to apply everything that you've learned in programming. All right. So this example here using the panda sprite, but your sprite doesn't have to match the same theme. You can do something else if you want to use, Roblox or, anything else. You can. All right. So another app that you can do here is like an interactive story. So got a couple different examples here of some interactive stories that you can use. So I'm sure you guys have remembered like the choose your own adventures. If you wanted to make a choose your own adventure story, you can do that. Now that's going to be more of a complex algorithm because they're going to decide, okay, well, they get to a road. Well, do they want to go to the right or do they want to go to the left? Well, if they go this way, okay, maybe they see something else and then they can decide here. So you have all these if statements that pop up. At the same time, when you make an interactive story, you're going to have a lot of things, visible on your screen on your design view. But during the game, you have to have a lot of things set visible, false, and then when they pop up, if they press this button, then they go through. So you can see here the difference, in the design view, you can see all these choices here, but in the game, when they play it, there's only two that they can see. So an interactive story is another way too. So if you don't want to try to get too much with the math involved, if you want to go through and create adventure, you can definitely do that. Another way that students have used their knowledge in computer science is to make an interactive media app. So you can see there's a couple examples here, like some digital doodles to go through. So I'm sure you guys have seen soundboards before. Those are really nice, but try to make them more than just interactive soundboards where they just press a button and play a sound. Is there a certain way they can go through? Try to combine this maybe with the drawing app that we went through, that you can go through. It plays a sound as you draw, so you can go through and change like that. So it's on a whole interactive display. So that one's pretty straightforward. All right. What you're going to do next here, I'm going to kind of skip is, okay, look at the problem decomposition here. So problem decomposition is an essential concept in computer science, like abstraction, algorithms, and pattern recognition. Decomposition is the process of breaking down a complex problem into several parts that are easier to conceive, understand, program, and maintain. So taking a big app that you have, this idea, and breaking it down into its smaller parts. When people collaborate on a program, the code is often organized into pieces so that the program can be built and tested incrementally. So, all right, we're going to do this feature first. We're going to make sure it works. Okay, it works. It's good. Move on to the next part. So as new features are added, the program is easier to maintain and fixing bugs are not as hard because teams can focus on one small part at a time. Breaking a program into pieces is a crucial strategy for solving complex problems. So for decomposition to be successful and a powerful strategy, the components of the program must be modular. All right. That means you have to create programs modularly by looking at each individual backlog item in order to develop the item to function before you move on to the next backlog item. So basically making sure, hey, did I get this component working? Is it working the right way? Okay, good. We can move on to the next thing. So each piece of the modular code should depend as little as possible on the other details of the code. So you're going to make sure that, once you get through the guessing game, okay, did that get right? Or were we able to get to say, whether it was low or high? Good. Okay, now that we got that, all right, let's work on limiting the number of guesses. Yet there might be some interference between the two, but it really shouldn't affect too much. All right, the pieces of code eventually will have to connect together, but the connection should be as simple and well-defined. That way, they can be improved and replaced without requiring all the other pieces of code to be redesigned. So during this project, you and your team will need to determine how you can break the design of the program into smaller parts that can be created and tested independently of each other. All right, you'll need to use the decomposition to break the work into smaller chunks, and team members may even work on different parts of the program independently in parallel and bring them together. That's kind of hard to do in App Inventor, but maybe some of you will be working on, or if you're making a soundboard, organizing the sound files, finding ones that are working good, while the other person is setting up the user design. All right, so here's some project tips here. File sharing in collaboration. So The App Inventor accounts can only be open in one place, otherwise they'll be causing some errors. So you need to plan how to share that AI file with each other at the end of the day. Other big thing, file naming conventions. This is something we definitely do. All right, you cannot upload an MIT App Inventor file that has the same name as another file in your account. So it's good to practice renaming them with iteration, like we do part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. All right. Component naming conventions and common user face design. So when you're working on the design, name your components the way that they should be, or what's the purpose. Don't just call it image bright 1, image bright 2, image bright 3, button 1, button 2, button 3, label 1, label 2. Make sure you label them so you know what they are supposed to do. All right. And then make sure you can get something that can be done in the given amount of time. You might have a great idea. You actually might know how to do it, but we only have a certain amount of time to work on this project. So make sure you guys can do this. All right, so let's start with the first process of the developmental process, which is part A. We're gonna find an idea that's we want to pursue. All right, so did you like creating a game earlier in the lesson? Did you often think of ways that you could have improved those games to make it more fun? You know, do you like to tell jokes? You know, what's something that you'd like to do? You know, have an idea here. You know, then try to think, okay, well, is that a game that you're going to be making? Is it more of an interactive story, or is it going to be more of an interactive media that you're going to be doing? And you can see the examples that we've used and where they match up. Okay, so brainstorm with your partner, try to get some ideas. You know, share your ideas here, and you're going to share with your class. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of how I want you guys to share that. All right, once you get that done, I'll go a little bit more in detail of how I want you guys to do this here. Is you're going to then set your developmental milestones. Okay, so you're going to figure, okay, what part of the project are you going to do first, second, third? Now, that's what your plan is going to be in that order. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you do those in that order. Based on things that happen, you know, maybe you'll do part 3 before you do part 2 because it was just easier to figure out that way. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to start making the game. So that's what part C is. You plan it out, start putting things together, set up your user design, get all the components you need, set it up. Then you start working on it. You design it, you build it, you create it, you test it, you move on, you design it. So each part, you design it, you create it, you test it. So you start building your app. Nobody should be making their app all in code and testing it out right when it's done. You should test it out as you make it, okay? So then at the end, you're going to evaluate and reflect. So you're going to go back, okay, what was good, what was bad? Is there something that you just don't know how to do yet because we haven't learned that type of coding? Or is there just some type of, you know, user error that they have to watch out for? It kind of breaks the game, but, you know, hey, most of the time that doesn't happen, okay? And then at the end, what we're going to do is we're going to present these projects. So we're going to have an open presentation at the end where everybody has their games open and you're going to share with your team what you were able to create. Okay, so that's the overview for the project. Let's talk about what you guys will be doing first. So the first thing that you guys are going to do is you're going to turn in this project brainstorming Google Doc. So you'll open up this assignment here and you'll make a copy of this document. Now, you might have to go through and add some images to this. You might have to do what you need to do, but you're going to fill out this document and then save it and turn it back in to me. So what you're going to do here is you're going to find an idea worth pursue. So with your team, I want you to generate a list of some ideas that you are going to do. You cannot just put down one idea, even if you know that that's the idea that you are going to do. I want you to put in a couple of them, at least 3 ideas that you guys could pursue. Okay, that way you have a backup plan and then you have a backup to the backup plan. That should be enough. All right, once you figure out an idea, what I want you to do is to set up some type of flow chart or design of the game. Okay, so how's that game going to look? What are the features to it? If it's a story, put your storyboard here. Okay, well, first he's going to go through, see a dragon. Is he going to fight or run away from it? Okay, if he fought it, okay, what's going to happen? If he run away, what's going to happen? All right, so set up the design. If you're making a game, you have it, okay, well, I'm going to have this screen here. There's an image on my canvas here. I'm going to have the score at the bottom. I'm going to have buttons to go left and right on it. You know, you have a design. So this is where you might want to draw it on a piece of paper and upload that. All right, next part, you're going to set up your developmental milestones. So you're going to break your app down into what are you going to work on first? Well, first I'm going to set up the design of the game. All right, then I'm going to go through and get it to where if you click on the button, the score goes up. All right, then after that, I'm going to work on a library that they can open up so they can buy multipliers for my cookie clicker game to make them so where they can buy more cookies. All right, okay, now that I have that library up, I want to make sure that it works, and it takes away from their point and the multiplier goes up. All right, and then I'm going to add an auto click property where it automatically clicks. Okay, and then I'm going to go through and add the library where they can add stuff to increase the auto click variable. Okay, then at the end, I'm going to add some sounds. So, okay, what are you going to do first in what order? Okay, what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to share this. So in a couple days, and I will let you guys know the due date, you guys are going to share those ideas with the class so we can kind of talk together to see if anybody has the same idea as you. So that way you could be two different groups of people across the room, but then you might, want to collaborate together to kind of team up. Okay, so once we get the brainstorming part done, then you guys are going to work on the project. Okay, when you guys are working on your project, what you guys are going to do is you're going to create a calendar every day. So you're going to have a Google Calendar, and this is what you're going to do. So every single day in the calendar, you're going to go through, you're going to put the date, you're going to put the goal. So when class starts, you're going to put your goal of what you're going to work on that day. All right. I'm going to work on the design of this day. I'm going to go through and find files that are going to use. I'm going to try to figure out how to change the score. Then at the end of the period, you're going to put down the results for the day. Now you will need to put every single day that we work on this. You will also need to include the weekends. You will not be required to work on the weekends, but you need to put those on your calendar because they are just a critical part. Some of you might have to work on the weekend. Some of you hopefully will not have to. If you are working with a partner, you need to have both in the goals and the result, what each partner is working on or plan on working on for the goal, and each partner gets the result. So you guys will have the calendar that you guys will turn on for the project. All right, the other part of the project that you guys will turn in is the file itself. So this is pretty straightforward here. Oh, opened up in the wrong window here. All right, so you'll go through here and I'm just going to be checking here. Does the app work correctly? Okay. Does the app have at least 3 imported images? Does it have at least 3 imported audio files? Does the app have at least 3 variables that are changed or used? So we've made variables in the game. Does the app have at least 1 procedure? Does the app have at least 1 loop? All right, are there 3 conditional? So are there 3 if or else if statements in the game? All right, are the variables named? So are they named appropriately so we can understand what they are? Are your components named appropriately? And then does the app look, is it neat and easy to use? Okay, so those are the things that I'm going to be looking for when you actually get your project done. And then the last thing here is the reflection. So at the end, you're going to go through and you're going to go through and reflect back on your project. So you're going to go through and describe a problem that you ran into this project and how did you solve it and what resource did you use? So did you have a time that you couldn't figure out the score wasn't working the way that it should have? Okay, how did you go through and fix it? Or did you have a time that when, it touched the edge, the one image sprite wouldn't go away, or the game wasn't resetting? If you reset the game twice, it actually never went back. Okay, how did you fix that and what resources did you use? Did you just take some time and look back at the code? Did you have to ask Mr. Riz for help? Did you get onto Google? Okay. Next thing, you're going to provide a screenshot of an abstraction. Remember, typically the easiest way to find abstractions are the procedures that you use, okay? And then you will describe the use of the abstraction. So how did you use it in your code and how did it make the code easier to read? And how did it make the code easier to fix? Remember, those are the 2 goals, the 2 purposes of an abstraction or procedure in code. All right, and then lastly here, provide a screenshot of an algorithm. That's the automated decision-making process based off of events. So those are our conditionals, so can you find your code where like, if this happens, then you do this, else if this happens, then you do that. You'll describe how does that code or how does that algorithm do? Does this decide whether the game's over? Does this decide whether the user is in the right area of the screen? What does that do? Is this the algorithm to decide the pathway that the user is taking along the way in my interactive story? So it seems like a lot, but this is going to be a big project that we'll be working on for a while. All right, so thanks for watching this video, guys. Hopefully you could have an idea now what this project is going to be all about, and you have some fun doing this because that's the most important part. All right, guys, I will see you later. Have a good one.